Hello, everybody, and welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am. Today, I am joined by a Brentford fan, Billy from The Terrace Podcast. Billy, how we doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. And yourself?
I'm all right. I've perked up a little bit seeing as West Ham might sign a decent player, and I think you'll know a lot about Said Benrahma.
Oh yeah, I certainly do. He's a very good player. You could say that. He's basically been the talisman for Brentford for 2 seasons now. And if it wasn't for him, I don't think we'd be anywhere near where we ended up last season. Although it wasn't the Premier League, which is why this move is being discussed, I guess. Yeah, Benrahma is certainly a talented footballer. Don't worry about
that. Yeah, no, I saw some stat. I think he's got. I think it's either over 50 or just about 50 goal contributions over since he's been at Brentford, which is a crazy stat. And I think it's up there with Jarrod Bowen when he was at Hull as well. So obviously we could have two potential, Championship players playing together. What I've got to ask you, and this is always the question, is: do you think Benrahma can transition to the Premier League, and do you think it will be difficult for him to do so, given physicality, obviously the intensity as well?
I don't think the fee is something that would unsettle Said Benrahma. He's a person who's very confident. You saw a lot of. I think Benrahma was linked to Leeds earlier in the window, and Leeds came out and I think Bielsa didn't like him as a player because they saw that big Instagram video. He's quite a big self-promoter, Said Benrahma. I think that's sort of nonsense. But he's a very confident player, so the fee wouldn't unsettle him. In terms of quality, Said Benrahma's got the quality. There was links to Chelsea and Arsenal, and he could fit into those sides. He is that good of a footballer. I've never seen a player like it at Brentford. Like you said, he's not just skills and showboating. He pulls off those bits of magic, but he also gets goals and assists. Like you said, his first season in English football, you'd think the Championship's a hard league to adapt to. He got 10 goals and 14 assists and only played about half the season. And then last season only went on to do better. In terms of the Premier League, I think he definitely can play in the Premier League. He's got the quality. I've seen a lot of fans raise issues though about whether he can deal with the physicality, and I think that may be an issue. It depends. You really have to get the best out of him and play him in a certain way. I think if West Ham wanted him to play more of a deeper sort of role and maybe help them out defensively, you're going to be asking a bit much of him. But if you want him to, and you play him further up the pitch and you play to his strengths, the guy has quality and he can unlock any Premier League defence. There's no question about that. But you're right. I think he is a player who, if there's more experienced defenders in the Premier League, those ones at the top level, your likes of your Chelsea, Cesar, Peliqueta, those lot. If they go in hard on him, he can go missing in games like we saw in the playoff final.
Yeah, no, that has been touted around. I mean, this is the thing for me, mate. Obviously, he's likely to come in on that left-hand side, which I guess is where he plays for Brentford, but he doesn't obviously stick to that side. He likes to come central a lot of the time and cut in, which is what most wingers do these days. It could suit our system more now we're playing a 3-4-3. Obviously, you've got the wing-backs now. There's a bit of protection there defensively. But just from what I've seen of him, I'm with you. I just think giving him that defensive responsibility might be asking too much. And where we've got Pablo Fornals on the left-hand side now, albeit he's not a natural left-sided winger, his work rate is very, very good. And in that side, we need a player that's going to work constantly and harry defences. I mean, from an offensive point of view, does he instigate a press, or is he very much, he just wants the ball, he wants to receive it and then go on with it?
Benrahma is very happy to press. I mean, he was helped out massively last season with having Ollie Watkins up top, and he did so much work. He's a phenomenal player. I think he'd be brilliant at Aston Villa. But yeah, Benrahma is happy to press, but he is also very much a player who, he does want the ball a lot. And I think West Ham fans make it frustrated. He can be greedy. And he is a bit like that. But if your player wants the ball all the time, I think you should build a team around him. And I genuinely believe Said Benrahma has the quality. I know West Ham fans may think this is silly because he's coming from the Championship. He has the ability for West Ham to build a side around him. He's that good of a footballer. And I think if West Ham do set up, like you said, of the 5 at the back, that could suit Benrahma. He played in the 5 at the back in his first season with us, and he looked very good at being maybe sort of narrow and close to the striker. I know you have Antonio up top, and he he's if there's one thing you can't knock about Antonio, it's his pressing and his work rate. If you can get Said Benrahma in around him, let Antonio do a lot of the work for him, then he will definitely work out, and he can contribute to the high press, like you said. I just think that you have to also let him do what he wants, and I don't know if you can have passengers in the Premier League. I mean, obviously, I'm yet to experience Premier League football myself at Brentford, so I don't watch as closely. But it does feel like the Premier League's a league where you can have less passengers, and you sort of need everyone to fulfil their role. But if you sort of give Benrahma a free role to do what he likes, I think he wins games single-handedly by himself.
Yeah, the comparison to Benrahma has been made with Dimitri Payet, and from what it seems, there is that Payet-esque ability about him, that kind of, obviously his skills, obviously his ability to beat a man. And I think from the outside, we can get excited, we can get behind him because we know it's the type of player that you want to see play for your football club. It is just a question of, can he do it consistently, and does he fit within the system? And like you kind of touched on there, in the Premier League, you've either got teams where all the players work for the team, like Leeds is a perfect example where, the whole team's behind it. Or you have teams maybe like a Villa where they give Jack Grealish a role on the left-hand side and just say, you just do what you need to do and then we'll work around them. So potentially, but my concerns are, can he fit within Moyes' system and whether Moyes is going to be the right manager for him?
Well, that has always been my concern with this transfer. And I mean, a lot of Brentford fans did get fed up with West Ham because it seems like West Ham, along with Aston Villa, were always the clubs coming in for our players, but your ones never materialised, and they got a bit frustrating. But in terms of Moyes, I really don't think he's a Moyes player, in all honesty. And I mean, that could change. Moyes could go, I believe in this guy and I think I can get the best out of him and I will allow him to have a free role. You never know because Moyes is an experienced manager. But the way I see West Ham playing, and what's made you successful in the last two games, because honestly, before the season started, I thought you were doomed for relegation. It's been has been being solid at the back and playing a good on the counter and every player putting in 100% effort, which makes me think that Moyes may not like Benrahma. And I've seen reports that Moyes' preferred option is Josh King anyway. I don't know if you can shed light on that. It seems like Benrahma is very much Sullivan and Gold's decision.
Well, this is the issue, mate. Obviously, at West Ham, you've got the manager and then you've got the board. And I believe Benrahma is an option for the board, and it's because they work with his agent quite closely. So he has become someone that they believe they can sign. Obviously, there are question marks when we've already got someone on the left-hand side. Josh King would probably suit us a little bit better in terms of a striking option to have because we've only got Allaire and Antonio. But yeah, it very much is a Sullivan signing. And that is my concern because Benrahma to a degree is a luxury player. And I'm not saying he can't cut it in the Premier League because I do think he can. But if we get halfway through this season and he's not getting the minutes and he's not affecting games and Moyes has got a player that he's not using, that's going to be more frustrating than anything because we've spent all our transfer budget on someone who's not showing himself on the pitch. So that is a massive concern.
Yeah, so Said Benrahma is very much a player who, if he did end up on the bench and everything, people a lot of the time see these footballers and think, yeah, they're happy to sit on the bench and take their money. I can guarantee you Said Benrahma's not that. He is, although a very flashy player, and a lot of people say arrogant, with the things he does on and off the pitch. To be honest, to Benrahma, I think the reason this deal's snagging is something to do with a loyalty bonus because Benrahma hasn't actually forced the move like a lot of Brentford players have in the past. So he is just happy playing football, I think, a lot of the time. Obviously, he wants his chance in the Premier League. But yeah, I can't see Benrahma being a player who's happy to sit on the bench, which, I mean, could go either one or two ways, couldn't it? I mean, you're happy that a player wants to fight for their place and wants to be an integral part of the team and play football. But also, I can see him getting very upset if it starts to get to the point where Moyes is just not playing him and doesn't fancy him. And that's what I worry about Benrahma's career, really, going to West Ham. I thought he'd have been better suited to a likes of an Aston Villa that sort of play like an attacking 4-3-3, and he's allowed to be that sort of flair player. And I do make comparisons with Felipe Anderson, who's just gone on loan to Porto, and I do worry that this Benrahma deal, if not getting the best out of him in the first 6 months, it could all just turn into one of those players where he's just wasted talent again. and he ends up West Ham sending him out on loan or just making a big loss on him in a year's time. So that I don't think West Ham fans will ever have to be worried about, is he just gonna, if he gets onto the bench, is he happy being there? Because I don't think Said Benrahma is that sort of player. He would definitely want to fight for his place in the team.
Yeah, do you know what? I think we saw quite similar when Jarrod Bowen come in, because his record for Hull was unbelievable, and actually they got relegated, I think, after he left. So it showed you how important he was. Yeah. And he didn't start getting minutes. It was very odd. We brought him in, and for about 2 months he kind of just get 10, 15 minutes, and he'd come on, look very lively, and you just wouldn't see him. No one could get their head around why this player wasn't playing. And obviously then, he started to play regularly, scored some goals, and he's one of our most important players now. So you have to hope that Benrahma is very, very similar, where obviously I don't want him to come off the bench for 10, 15 minutes for 3 games. But if he can get on, affect the game, create something, we do need a creator in that team. Pablo Fornals is fantastic at it in terms of vision. Obviously, Benrahma is a different type of player because he'll look to take people on and he's got the skills. But it's just tricky because that 3-4-3 that we play is so functional. There's no real room for a 10 and that's kind of the question I want to ask you. With Benrahma, albeit he comes off the left, can he play a 10 if he's allowed to?
I mean, he can 100% play a 10. I mean, for Brentford, he technically played, left wing in a 4-3-3. But we also played that first season when he broke through. We played a 5 at the back, and we played 2 wingers, but they played very, very narrow. They were basically number 10s. We played 2 number 10s pretty much. Benrahma is 100%, he's 100% capable of playing that number 10 position if that's what West Ham want of him. The only thing I would say is you'd have to let that number 10 position be sort of free flowing. So although he's great in that number 10 pocket, he loves picking up space, and you won't see many players better at just turning their shoulder and getting in and out of little gaps. Some of the skill he does is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. But most of his goals, if you want goal contribution, is coming in off that left. So he can play number 10, but you shouldn't be surprised if he drags out to that left-hand side to pick up the ball, come inside, have a shot. Because most of his goals, I'm sure, as you've seen from highlights, are cutting in from the left and whipping them into the far top corner. He's certainly capable, especially in certain games. If West Ham are thinking, right, we need some creativity in a number 10, we need someone to feed the ball out wide, we need someone to feed Antonio. Benrahma is 100% capable of that, because as you've seen for his stats, he's not just all about goals. He has plenty of assists as well.
I wanted to ask you about his goals actually, because for a player that's really more of a playmaker, he does get quite a few goals, and his composure in front of goal is quite impressive. Is that something you've been maybe surprised at Brentford? I mean, obviously not now because he's become so prolific in that sense, but is it something that another aspect to his game that he has?
Oh, certainly. Benrahma is, he's definitely a goal scorer. I don't know if maybe when he goes up to the Premier League he'll get as many. I mean, obviously you'd naturally think he wouldn't, but it's just that I think the reason he gets so many goals in the Championship is because, one, he plays for a good team. We are a very forward-thinking attacking side, but also he's just a level above. In the Premier League, there'll be more players who are of his quality, although I still think he'll be a top, in terms of technical side, a top player in the Premier League. I think he's just so too good for the Championship. He takes the mick out of players. He rainbow flicks them. He cuts inside and he just bangs one in the top corner. He scored multiple hat tricks for Brentford, and for a midfielder, I mean, you can't really ask for much more, can you? But I think the reason he does, obviously, he scores a lot of goals because of his technical ability, but he isn't afraid to shoot. I'll give you that. You might get frustrated sometimes, although like you said, he is creative and he gets a lot of assists. Benrahma at times has frustrated Brentford fans for being greedy, but he's allowed to be greedy because he's so good. He has been greedy at times, but maybe with the coaching at West Ham and knowing that he's a Premier League player and he's got other Premier League players to pass to, he'll opt for that pass sometimes. I'd say the only downfall side Benrahma's game is nothing to do with technical, it's just decision making. He will sometimes go try and bend that shot in one too many times instead of playing the ball that he could. And I don't know, that may frustrate Premier League fans because you get less chances when you do in the Championship, because we would create 20 chances a game without fail. He's capable of scoring goals, and I think if he started every game for West Ham, he could get 10 Premier League goals in a season, which for a midfielder is a very useful output.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, mate. And also, like, I think I've seen some of the free kicks and set pieces. I mean, is that something that you look to and say, well, that's actually quite impressive in terms of delivery? Because West Ham are very good from set pieces typically, and that's where a number of our goals, probably towards the end of last season, came from. So does he have that in his locker as well?
I will say he definitely has the technical ability, obviously, to do it. He's not actually on corners for us, in honesty. We have other players who are better corners. I think Benrahma prefers being that man on sort of the edge of the box who can, if it comes to him, he's there. And actually, I'd tell you what, he does do a lot of short corner routines with our corner taker. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I know that's sort of more of a team thing, but if Moyes sees the capability, and the amount of times we would take a short corner, and it'd be very strange. In most short corners, you expect the ball to come out and then be whipped back in. Benrahma would get the ball from the corner and just run into the box with his tricky feet, and he won a couple of penalties doing that. We've scored goals from doing that. In terms of free kicks, though, I wouldn't have him on free kicks personally. He's got the ability to do it, and I'm sure he's only going to keep getting better. But free kicks for Brentford, he has scored a couple, but in all honesty, that's a couple out of 100. He hits the wall a lot. He hits the wall a lot of the time. If I was a West Ham fan, I'd be honest, I probably wouldn't have him on set pieces. Although I don't know if you're surprised by that, but he seems to. I don't know. He seems to try always like the flashy free kick or the flashy cross rather than just getting it on someone's head.
Yeah, no, I think it's the Payet thing, mate. I think it's because I think we were so thinking this is the new Payet that we're thinking he's going to bend it top corner like he did against Palace or whatever. But yeah, mate. I mean, it is an interesting one, and I think particularly what we've seen from Ollie Watkins, which I think was a great buy for Villa. To be honest, I wanted West Ham to sign him. That transition has happened, and I do think, in general, Championship players are overlooked as not being good enough for the league. But there's so many examples recently of players that have come up and proven it. So you have to hope I can do the same. I think he can. You know, he's in the national team for Algeria. You know, there are so many aspects of him. He is too good for the level, in my opinion.
He's 100% too good. He's 100% too good for the Championship. And you're right about the Championship bringing that such good players. Like you said, you mentioned Jared Bowen earlier, and I mentioned him on my podcast this week, saying that he's the sort of player. This is why the Benrahma deal does worry me a bit, because he's more of a flashy player. But that's the sort of player West Ham need to build from. I think you maybe tried to make that transition to being a team that's in Europe too quickly, and it failed. And the players like Jared Bowen are the level that you need to sort of set your team around for now. And Bowen, his output is unbelievable, and I really think that he's West Ham's, in my opinion, best player. I mean, at the moment, he will get you. I reckon he could get you 15 goals in the league if you play him every game, because that's what Bowen does. He scores goals. He's a bit different to Benrahma, as in I think Jared Bowen was always ready for the Premier League, because it wasn't always about can he skill a player. When you go up a level, that can change whether you can skill out a player. But Bowen was just always in the right place to score goals, and for a winger, that's exactly what you want. But yeah, you are right. The Championship gets overlooked for talent so much, and you only have to see if there are plenty of examples of players who have come through all of the Football League to play in the Premier League now. Mikel Antonio being one. There's sometimes you don't need to go out and sign these players from abroad for 45 million when the talent's right under your nose.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's all about the fit, mate. And I think with the Championship as well, it's a good learning curve for a lot of players when they come up to the league, because it is intense. It is grueling. 46 games in a season. The demands are quite high. But yeah, like you can say, I've seen Jared Bowen before, and that element of goal scoring, that knack of getting into the box, the finishing, you don't lose that when you go up the level. It's just how many chances you get to take it. And listen, he's done brilliantly, and hopefully Benrahma can do the same and light up. Unfortunately for you, but I think you're getting around 30 mil, so it's not too bad.
Not too bad for the bank account, is it?
Well, you're all right, mate. Your scouting network's different class, so I'm sure Brentford have got a couple of players up their sleeve that they've got their eye on. I
think we've already signed our replacement, in honesty. We signed Saman Ghoddos from the French division, and he's very much a similar player. There was a little bit of hope before West Ham came in that maybe we'd have both of them and we would go and walk the Championship, but it doesn't look that way. Hopefully Ghoddos hits the ground running, because he's got big shoes to fill.
Definitely, mate. Yeah, listen, thanks for coming on, Billy, mate. Shout out to your podcast, From The Terrace Podcast. Where can we see it?
It's on YouTube, mate. Subscribe to From The Terrace Podcast. We're also on iTunes, and it's at Podcast FTT on Twitter. Cheers, Corey.
Yeah. No worries, mate. Listen, everyone, check that one out. Thanks for Billy. I know he's losing one of his best players, but thanks for coming on, mate, anyway.
It's a pleasure, mate.
No worries. All right, everyone. Till next time. Take care.